Hello, my name is Roger McDonald. I'd like to have some time today to share with you what I do with my Thanksgiving turkey dinner leftovers that helps me to preserve and recapture the memories all winter long. I'm going to touch on a few dishes, but I'm going to describe more fully one dish in particular. And I want to start this with a couple of quotes that I think are relevant to the point of this presentation. The first is from Sarah Josepha Hale in her book Northwood. The roasted turkey took precedence on this occasion, being placed at the head of the table, and well did it become its lordly station, sending forth the rich odor of its savory stuffing, and finally covered with the froth of the basting. Now this identifies the importance of the turkey. It's interesting to me that the myth that Benjamin Franklin had suggested that the turkey be the national bird for the United States is really not true. Although he did indicate that he felt the turkey was more respectable than the bald eagle. The next quote that I want to offer you is from Plymouth.org, and it's a Thanksgiving history in an article published on that site in 2017. It says, Thanksgiving is a holiday about coming home and all of the emotional content those two words imply. And these two quotes is what my presentation is really about. So after the Thanksgiving dinner is over, and the turkey's been, everybody has eaten and enjoyed each other's company and spent time together. That's when I really look at what can I do with these. So the first thing I do is make some plates to go into the freezer. And I have some small Tupperware plates with little individual compartments. And I put a few items in those. The next thing that I make is turkey carcass soup, which is much, much better than it sounds. After everybody is done having dinner and the turkey is there, you carve away the vast majority of all the meat off of the carcass. And I did some research about the tradition that's in our family in freezing the carcass, and specifically freezing the bones. And I found some interesting information about how to make bone broth, which is exactly what we're doing. So you take this turkey carcass, all the bones, skin, fat, everything, and you put it in Walmart bags. And I go and I ask for new Walmart bags, so they're not used ones. And you need 3 of them. You take that and you put it in one bag, you tie it up tight, next bag tied up, third bag tied up, and you put it in the freezer for 3 days. Now, the tradition says that in the 3 days of freezing, the freezing of the bone marrow crystallizes the marrow and it fractures the cells. So when you bring it out and you begin to stew that, it brings all of those nutrients and minerals and vitamins and all of the flavor and all of the aroma back out of that turkey carcass. So that's what I do. So you take the entire turkey carcass and you can put it either in a crock pot or in a large pot on the stove. I use a crock pot. I put it on high for 10 hours and I usually let it go overnight. And I only put 1 box of chicken broth in this, and then I fill the rest of the way with water. It's really critical that you don't overpower the soup, make it too heavy. So once this is all done and the time has passed in boiling and simmering, you take the entire carcass out and you put it on a large platter and you begin to dismantle the carcass and pulling off all of the rest of the meat. Now, you need to take a ladle and pull out any excess fat or skin or gristle or anything that's in that broth. So you've got a nice clean broth to start with. After you've picked all the meat off, you chop it, you cut it up, and you put it into the soup. Now, if there's not enough meat for your taste or your preference, then take a little more and cut some up and put it in there. And then it's time to get creative. You can put mixed vegetables, and I either use frozen mixed vegetables or fresh mixed vegetables, but I never use canned, because when you use canned, then they become too mushy. Now, one of the things that's really critical about this is I never use a starch as a thickening agent. I use about 1/4 to 1/2 cup of the stuffing and I put it in. And as this cooks over time, it breaks all of that down, and that's my thickening agent. Now, one more critical thing is when you've reached this point, it's time to put in either pasta or rice, but don't ever do both. I did both once. I ruined my wife's soup, and it was a complete disaster. So whatever your preference is on rice or with noodles. Now, beyond this, you've got 2 other really important dishes that you can make. One is shepherd's pies, which is very similar to pot pies, but instead of putting more pie crust over the top, you use some of the mashed potatoes from the Thanksgiving turkey dinner. And you mix those up a little bit with milk, make it a little thin, and put a crust over it, and then put some cheese on it and bake those in the oven. Then you make my favorite, turkey enchiladas. Now, when you're doing this, when you're making the pies, it's critical to have a white meat and a dark meat. When you're doing the enchiladas, of course for personal preference, when you're making the enchiladas, you can mix both the meats, but you don't cut the meat into cubes. You shred the meat because they're enchiladas. You get about 2 cups, you put it in to a saucepan on the stove, some cream of chicken soup, cream of mushroom soup, and you're going to bring some of that broth, about 1.5 cups that we made with the turkey soup, and you put it in there. So what we're doing is we're bringing all these flavors into these other dishes. All of the aromas and the flavors of that day. And through those dishes, we're going to relive those memories of the day. Through our olfactory, which is our smell, and our flavor senses, that's where a lot of memories come back to us. That's how we remember a lot of things. So I like to do this because it helps me to preserve those memories through the year. Now, there's another critical thing here. When you've made your soup or the enchiladas, whatever it may be, it's important to let them cool very close to room temperature without putting them in the fridge or the freezer. The reason being is you're working with poultry. So you want that to gradually cool down. When it's warm to the touch but not hot, then it's time to put it into the refrigerator or freezer. Now, beyond this, you can have turkey sandwiches, you can have turkey salads. Those are great. But what I really like is the cooking process, because it really fills the house with those smells again. And each time I sit down and eat the meal, then I get to have those same flavors. Although it's a moderately costly endeavor, for the person that really wants to take the turkey dinner, and that's about $110. For the person that really wants to take the turkey dinner to its fullest riches, they're going to take all of those leftovers and use them for additional dishes. The value that you get out of it is just unbelievable. It's a very thrifty and yummy way to be able to recapture and relive memories of the day, the antics of family and friends, and sometimes the jokes, and sometimes the really tender moments that we value and cherish for so many years to come. On Thanksgiving Day, family and friends, and in the best of times, estranged loved ones come together for a moment, for a day. And in that moment, they're close once again. This presentation offers you an opportunity to be able to experience the flavors of the conversations of the day, to smell the aromas of the love in the air, a way to remember. So, now that you have this information, go and make your own culinary creations of memories. And thank you for your time.